Brew Strong is brought to you by Blickman Engineering, home of the top-tier brewing stand. Visit them online at blickmanengineering.com.
Brewers, it's time for the beer radio you've been looking for. This is the show that dispels myths, tackles the toughest topics, and makes no apologies for geeking out on beer. Hosted by two guys that drink before they think, Jamil Zainasheff and John Palmer. This is Brew Strong.
Hey, howdy, hey, my brewing brothers and sisters.
Greetings.
We're back. Feels like been a little while since we've been in the studio. But, you know, one of the things, a number of people at GABF, and then we just had AHA rally, a number of people saying, you know, it's a shame you stopped doing the show. I'm like, stop doing the show? What are you kidding me? We've not missed a show in 10 years or whatever it's been.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, shows haven't been posted since like June. I'm like, June? What the?
Yeah. I'm going to be fixing that today.
Okay. So we're going to get those things posted. Because I'm like, well, if they're not going to get posted, I'm not going to do the show. That's the way it works. Because as fun as it is, you know, with the drive and everything else, it eats up some time.
Yeah. No, I was pretty irritated when I found out that hadn't been posted.
Right.
So we are doing everything in our
limited power
to get the shows out
all right.
today or tomorrow.
That'd be awesome. Because, people are like, yeah, I really like this show, but you're not doing it anymore. I'm like, news to me.
Yeah, I thought maybe it was just the iTunes feed wasn't going up and they were still on the Brew Network, but I didn't check myself.
Yeah, that's what we thought too. We're like, well, it must be somewhere.
Yeah,
it's somewhere available. People just start looking.
Well, because I post those.
Oh, well, there you go. But I had a great time at GABF. I know you did too, John.
Yep, sure did.
And just did the AHA rally. Had a great time with that. That was a blast. Like 300 people showing up at the brewery to hang out, drink beer, talk brewing.
Wow, that's a good crowd.
Oh yeah, that's our third time doing it. It's a blast. We really enjoyed it.
I just got back from Omaha and Lincoln, Nebraska.
Oh yeah,
doing the Sowers Cup competition out there, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Good bunch of brewing clubs out there. I mean, you know, I don't know, didn't get quite the 300 people that you did, but still, real good crowd. And visited 6 breweries in one day there in Omaha, and then 4 breweries in Lincoln.
Yeah.
And
you visited 10 in a day?
2 days.
Oh, okay. Oh, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah, I didn't want to push it. You know?
Right. You didn't have more than 2 pints at each, so
right.
So you're fine. Oh, yeah. Well, you know, that's all God's country out there. That's where our good friend Blickman's at in Indiana.
That's right.
Kind of that continuum of God's country, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Pert near smack dab next to it, I think.
Right. Well, and aren't you and Blickman doing something, BYO?
Yes. Yes. In fact, a couple weeks from now, 2 short weeks from now, we do the BYO beer boot camp in Indianapolis. And John and I will be doing a show on all grain essentials. And then I'm going to do a Homebrewing 101 program the next day on Saturday. And that should be quite good. Everybody that's attending the class is going to get a copy of the latest edition of How to Brew. Because in trying to distill How to Brew into a presentation, well, it was kind of long. So I thought, you know, it'd be easier just to take copies of the book.
And then hand it out and say,
yeah,
you guys read this, and then just like email me you got any questions. That's what I would do.
Turn to page 36 and read, you know. But, yeah, I mean, it was it's rather than trying to put everything that's in How to Brew in a presentation, I've tried to kind of compromise there a little bit.
Oh, there you go.
But I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a lot of fun.
That sounds like fun. And especially fun because our good friend John Blickman will be there. And he is an absolute delight to hang out with. He is. He's such a crazy and clever guy. And, you know, I think that's really what defines all of Blickman is, you know, not crazy, but, you know, clever, well-made, you know. I think that's what all their gear exemplifies, and he's been sponsoring the show since since a few shows in for a long time. And what we'd like you to do is email him at feedback@blickmanengineering.com and tell him how much you appreciate that he sponsors the show, because he's paying for it, so you don't have to. The least you can do is email him and say thanks. While you're at it, check out the good stuff they got on their website, blickmanengineering.com. I think it's spelled with a B. There's an M in there, and like a dot, and something else.
Yeah,
I think you can get it from that. I think you can work out the rest. All right, today we have the great joy and honor of having Jen Talley with us. She just wrote a book on session beers, a really nice book. And I recall I was going through Utah, and I remember having, I think, some of her beers there, and being amazed at, you know, what was possible with a 4% ABV beer.
Nice. When were you going through Utah?
That would have been, let's see, that would have been like an RV trip with the family, and that would have been maybe it was going to see Grandpa with the kids, and that would have probably been maybe 2004, 2004 and 2006 or something like that.
Yep, I was brewing there at Squatters from 1991, not to date myself, to 2011. So.
Okay, yeah. Yep. And then I think I stopped by there again later on in another trip, like around 2007, I want to say, or 2008. And the beers were amazing, and I was so happy. It made me want to live in Utah because I love drinking beer, but if every beer is 8 to 12%, it makes it very difficult for me to have more than one. At 4%, I can drink quite a bit. It's like when I go to England and I have some traditional English ales, and they're 3.2 to 4. I can drink a ton of them, and I just love it. There's plenty of alcohol to have effect, but you get more flavor, you get more experience. It's just a joy to behold. And so I remember in particular I think it was your Schwartz beer. Mm-hmm. Was just out of this world good. And didn't you win a medal around then at GABF?
I think I don't have a list in front of me, but I think we won 6 at GABF between GABF and World Beer Cup for the Schwartz beer. Yeah. So it was a popular one, and I worked hard on that recipe, and I really loved that beer. And my Vienna lager was also one that brought in quite a bit of awards and was a really nice, beautiful session beer that we created there as well.
And that was 4% ABV, 3.2 by weight.
Correct. So a lot of people were often confused by, that's not 3.2, but they're speaking of ABW or alcohol by weight versus ABV, and so the rest of the nation uses ABV. So whenever people would come to the pub for a tour, or I would train the servers, I would kind of try to give them a new language, and it's 4%. It's not 3.2, it's 4%, because people look at their bottles at home and they see the ABV, then they hear this number 3.2, and they think it's they're comparing it to their 5% ABV at home. It's like apples to apples. So.
Well, and it to me it didn't really matter, because does it taste great? Is it just a joy to drink? Well, then who cares what the numbers are? It's one of those things. So, Jen, how do you define what a session beer is?
I think first and foremost, even before we talk about, the lower alcohol that these session beers have, they have to be high quality. They have to be very well made, because even if you're 5% ABV or below, and that's how I define session beers in the book, because you have to use a standard, and everyone has an opinion on what the alcohol should be for a session beer, and it can't be higher than this, and it has to be, and they range all over the place, from as low as I've heard, 3.5, ABV, and up to 5%. No one really talks about it over 5%, but the Brewers Association has kind of set their mark at 5, so that was the line I drew in the sand as well, and I think it's a good one. But I think even the most defining characteristic of a session beer is its quality. It has to be made extremely well, meaning, and what do I mean by that is, quality ingredients, yes, but also no off flavors, because there's not a lot of alcohol in these beers. And if you have off flavors, you're really probably not going to want another pint. Mm-hmm. So they have to be very high quality, and of course, in the lower alcohol range. Mm-hmm. Those would be, I would say, my top two characteristics. And to be able to do the quality and the lower alcohol, and to want another one, they have to be balanced. So if you're making, let's say, a session IPA, which a lot of people are, into drinking and making these days, it's a real popular session beer out there. They can't be too bitter. You couldn't have just a massive, even if they were high quality, no off flavors, the lower alcohol. Mm-hmm. But let's say they're just pouring in tons of hop extract at the end, and they were harsh because of a massive amount of maybe 85 IBUs were in it or something. Probably hard to drink another one, because that the balance is off, and the hops are overpowering everything.
I agree with you 100%. So, that's one of my pet peeves about people doing session IPAs. It shouldn't be the same bittering as your 8% IPA. You have to scale it down. They're like, well, I don't want it to be a pale ale. No, I think there's such a finer balance between, when you go to session, your hands on the controls need to be much more in tune, where an extra 5 IBUs, 10 IBUs is a huge difference in a session beer. It's not in an 8% beer. There's not all that malt and other stuff to hide behind. You have to be very careful. A little bit too much is way too much in a session beer. And I'm with you on balance and balance of things like carbonation as well. Sometimes people just overcarbonate these things, and it makes them seem that much thinner and sharper than they should be.
And so what we're really talking about is this elusive word called drinkability. Mm-hmm. And they have to be highly drinkable, because it's a session beer, and low alcohol alone does not define a session beer. You have to have high quality, good balance, nice flavor, lower alcohol. But, you want to drink another one. They have to be, they have to have this drinkability where you just thank you, can I have another one? You want to have another one. So nothing can be too high a points, like your carbonation or your bitterness or whatnot. So the drinkability factor has to be there.
Drinkability and balance go hand in hand, don't they?
Yes, they do. They absolutely do.
Well, let's do this. Let's take a short break. When we get back, I want to talk about something more about the ingredients and how they affect balance in session beers. All right. We'll take a short break, and we'll be back right after this.
Are you looking for a simple brewing system that's great for all grain brewing, but everything on the market seems to be full of compromises? Blickman Engineering has the answer. The Blickman Brew Easy All Grain Brewing System. The Brew Easy is a complete system with easy upgrades and a beautiful compact design, perfect for any size brewing location. At its core, the Brew Easy is built on 2 gorgeous Blickman Boilermaker brew kettles, a high-temperature March pump, and either a top-tier gas burner or the new Boil Coil electric heater. The Brew Easy adapter lid allows the pots to stack on top of each other, forming an efficient, strong, and compact brewing setup that comes in 5, 10, and 20-gallon batch sizes. Upgrade your Brew Easy system with full automated control by adding a Blickman Tower of Power temp controller, and make moving around easy with the Blickman Kettle Cart. The Brew Easy is modular. If you already own a Boilermaker kettle, you can build your Brew Easy by purchasing just the modules you need. The new Brew Easy all-grain brewing system. See it today at BlickmanEngineering.com and brew with Blickman quality on your new Brew Easy. Since the first time the Brewing Network microphones turned on, More Beer was behind it. More Beer sponsors the programming on the BN because, like you, they love brewing. And like the Brewing Network, they love sharing their knowledge. Morebeer.com isn't just a website to place your next equipment or ingredient order. Morebeer.com also gives you access to free beer information that will make you a better brewer. Go to morebeer.com and click into the Learning Center. You'll find podcasts, technical facts, video tutorials, and more, including access to The Buzz, More Beer's social network of more than 5,000 members. And some of them might even be crazier about beer than you are. Get over to morebeer.com today and take advantage of The Buzz, the forum, the Learning Center, and make sure you're signed up to receive the newest More Beer catalog. More Beer, bringing you absolutely everything for beer making.
Hey guys, what'll it be?
I'm not sure. What do you recommend?
A lot of people seem to like the Hefeweizen.
Is that a German Hefeweizen or more of an American-style wheat beer?
I'm not sure, but I can give you a taste.
Okay, great.
The Cicerone Certification Program certifies and educates beer professionals in order to elevate the beer experience for consumers. Unfortunately, not every bar is staffed with certified beer servers who can guide their customers through a beer list.
Here you go, guys. Let me know what you think of the Hefeweizen.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely more of an American meat. But I can hardly tell because this beer just smells like sour butter. I wonder how long it's been since they cleaned the draft line.
Yeah, and look at the bubbles on the side of the glass. It's filthy.
Somebody should tell these guys about the Cicerone program.
For sure. How about we head somewhere else for another beer?
Your server should give beer the same respect you do. Request quality. The Cicerone Certification Program offers 4 levels of beer certification, in-person classes, and course books for beer professionals. Check them out at cicerone.org. The Cicerone Certification Program. We know beer.
Since 1979, Williams Brewing has offered the finest equipment and freshest ingredients and the best customer service in the business. Check out their brand new patent-pending mash and boil 110-volt electric mashing and boiling unit. This compact all-stainless unit lets you mash, sparge, and boil just about anywhere that has a 110-volt plug. Double-wall construction adds to efficiency and safety, and a precise thermostat keeps temperatures where you want them. Unlike insulated buckets and converted coolers, multiple temperature rest mashing is easy to do, all for under $300. They also feature the Mark II work pump, a magnetic drive high-temperature pump that does the work of pumps that cost twice as much, as well as exclusive Brewer's Edge regulators and quality Keg King kegs and disconnects. Check them out today at williamsbrewing.com to brews their vast selection.
Back to the beer guys that make other beer guys look like wine guys. Brew strong.
All right, I want to tell you, White Labs has recently added 2 new yeast strains to the vault. The collection of specialty one-of-a-kind strains. Now, homebrewers are able to pre-order WP066. That's the London Fog Ale yeast, the one that, if you're interested in making a hazy IPA or something like that, the London Fog's a great choice for those. And they're adding the WP073 Artisanal Country Ale yeast. The pro brewers can get in on this too. All you got to do is order at least 1.5 liter of that, and you can get that as well. The artisanal country ale yeast is perfect for your next beer to guard or farmhouse style ale. Don't wait. Homebrewers, you visit whitelabs.com/thevault to learn more and place a pre-order on White Labs specialty strains. That's the Vault's a cool thing where they can put out all these different strains that, you know, for them to grow a batch of yeast and package it without and then it not sell is really kind of a waste and a major problem. But they don't know on these real odd yeasts whether or not that's going to happen. So they do this. They list it. If they get 150 orders, boom, it's done. They grow it up and ship it out to you. So kind of cool. White Labs, the Vault. All right, so we were talking session beers here with Jen Talley, who literally wrote the book on session beers. And we were talking about the ingredients and how that affects balance as well. High quality ingredients, I assume, Jen. I don't think you'd use anything else, right?
Yeah, exactly. You definitely want to have high quality ingredients. Fresh hops. If you have old hops you're using and they kind of put off kind of like a cheesy, isovaleric kind of flavor, that's going to come through. Like we mentioned, there's nothing to hide behind as far as that alcohol. So the quality of your ingredients is super important. But then, how you build your grist, how you build your grain bill. I like to use a lot of Munich malt. To help build some body. And I also like to mash a little hotter temperatures to convert some unfermentable sugars to add body back into the beer. That can really help to build up the mouthfeel and body of a session beer. We touched just a little bit on hops. Definitely need to be fresh. It's very easy to overdo the bitterness, so you want to keep that in check. And you can still have, a nice bitter beer, but I like to keep those session IPAs around, probably 45 IBU seems to be a really nice number. And I speak in the book a lot about quality of bitterness when utilizing your ingredients and where you're placing those hops to get the bitterness. I don't hop burst, I guess it's kind of called these days, and put them all in the whirlpool. I think that in a lower alcohol beer, that tends to come off as a little harsher bitterness. And I like to do a little bit more classic hopping and put my bitterness up front and then drive that flavor and aroma with the dry hopping. That seems to really help keep the balance and flavor of the session IPA really nice, keep you coming back for more.
And what about things like water and adjusting your water? What should you focus on there?
The one thing I do for the water, obviously, is, of course, good potable water that you would want in your, brewery. Take a look at, all your minerals and your calcium level, and you'll want to make sure you have enough calcium, for your lautering and, you want to make sure your pH is adjusted. So you want to make sure your pHs are in line for your mash and your sparge. You definitely don't want to be just like you would for any beer. But you see, when we talk about a session beer, it's going to have a larger impact because you don't have the alcohol. We kind of keep coming back to that theme, but I can't stress it enough. So all of the basic good brewing processes you would do for any good beer are amplified in the session brewing. So having your pH in line from the beginning, whether that means you're acidifying your foundation water or you're using acidulated malt to help lower that pH, you don't want those to rise above about 5. My point is about 5.75 when you're running your last runs over, or even 5.7, because you don't want to extract that harsh astringency out of the malt when those pHs start to rise. That's extremely important because that just does not make you want to have another one of these session beers. And then as far as my calcium addition goes, I love to use calcium chloride because it enhances the mouthfeel once again, and you don't need to dry out a session beer. I still like to end my terminal gravities somewhere very similar. I don't have higher terminal gravities and more residual sweetness to try and fake body. I think that's not the greatest technique for making a session beer. So I like to end my beers, the terminal gravities, very similar to what a beer made at above 5%, 6%, 7% would still end at. And I tried to enhance the body and mouthfeel through malt and water and appropriate use of the hops, good processes.
Well, I think that's one of the major shortcomings of a lot of people brewing session beers, a lot of people brewing beers in general, that they struggle with good fermentation, good attenuation. And you can attenuate a beer fully and not have it end up coming out thin or too dry. It depends on how you've built that grist, that malt profile and the body and everything else, and yet you can ferment the daylights out, and you get this beautiful balance of great mouthfeel. There is some sweetness, but it finishes dry, and I think that's the the thing that people are missing so much in so many of these attempts. So, what kind of other secrets do you have for people on that?
I think that's a really good point. So if you think about a session beer made with calcium sulfate as opposed to the chloride, and let's say you ferment it down to 2.2, and you just use straight 2-row, you can almost come off. It kind of comes off. It can come off very watery and very thin, and it doesn't need to do that. The chloride is a huge element using calcium chloride. And I don't know if I mentioned, but I like to use Munich malts or Vienna malt in the Gristville. Up to 20% can really help build nice body into a session beer, into a lower alcohol beer. But one key factor is that healthy fermentation, pitching the right amount of yeast. And these, once again, are good processes for any brewing, but very important in session beer that your pitch count is on, your fermentation is healthy, your maturation is long enough to reuptake any of the off flavors produced that you want reabsorbed, and getting that beer off the yeast so you don't have a autolysis occurring. All very important.
Do you ever change your rate for pitching for session beers, or do you pretty much stick with the same per mill per Plato that you would?
Yeah, it's definitely the same rule of thumb as you mentioned, and like when you're making really large beers, you really do have to up that. And I also, run a dissolved oxygen meter probe in line, and making sure my dissolved oxygen is not too high. For professional brewers, we a lot of times use medical oxygen, which you can over-oxygenate your wort stream easily with. And you can really create a lot of acetaldehyde if you are over-oxygenating a low Plato original gravity beer. So if you're starting at 10 Plato or 11 or 12, and you're shooting in 21 ppm of oxygen, then you're just going to be you can really ruin it that way as well. So those small processes all along the way, we're mentioning a lot, but if you have to attend to all of them and be diligent about it to get a great session beer at the end. They all matter.
And I don't mean to jump around here, but what styles of beer do you think are appropriate for session beers? Are all styles of beer appropriate to be made into a session level beer, or are there only some that tend to work as a session ale or lager?
Well, I mean, when looking at history, historical, traditions of brewing and whatnot, and you look at like a Maybach, or you look at a big Märzen, those, in my mind, you can try and drink a lot of them, but it gets a little bit difficult when they get into the higher alcohols, or they get into large malty range. Like we make Hop Donkey at Auburn Ale House, and it's a double red. I think it's 9% alcohol. It's full of caramel malts and complex malts, massive amounts of hops and bitterness, and that is not a session beer. It's hard to drink, 2 16-ounce pints of 9% beer, or 3. A session beer, usually 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4. I mean, at that lower alcohol, you can really do that. So yeah, there are styles that just don't work. Barley wine, I think my friend John Harris at Ecliptic recently I saw it, I don't know where it was in a posting or something, and he called it a session barley wine. I remember texting him. I'm like, really, John? He's like, I don't know, I don't really know what he did with it, but he was trying to do some type of a version of that. But I think it gets a little weird when you it's kind of interesting when you try to take these big styles that are known for their alcohol and their body or their big malts, and you try and say, now I'm going to make it a session style. That to me is like, I don't think we need to do that as an industry. I think we can just leave imperial stouts imperial stouts.
Yeah, some of them it's kind of like the doing the black IPA. It's kind of weird to try and make a black version of something that's pale.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Right. That's a little weird,
Mm-hmm. So I think, Czech Pilsners, you asked me what are some, great, Vienna Lager, the Schwarzbier, Weiss beers, as long as they're, not going too hot, above 5%, and Pilsners are wonderful for session beers. The most popular dark session beer in the world, 10 million pints, a day or drink every day, Guinness Dry Irish Stout, fantastic session beer. So, session beer spans a wide variety of styles. Kolsch, Alt, the Belgians make great, some great session, pales, with wonderful Belgian, yeast strains that have beautiful, light phenolic notes and mineraliness from magnesium, but they do it very gentle. And there's some wonderful session beers coming out of Belgium. And the wit beer, Hoegaarden and Allagash's White. So the session beer crosses so many different styles, which is wonderful about it.
I have a thought on session beers. I think one thing that makes them session and kind of illustrates the balance principle, I think, in a session beer, you have less body. Generally, you have less lingering of that beer on the palate, say, compared to, the Imperial Red or the barley wine or the Bock, in terms of the viscosity of the beer. And so there has to be, I think, better differentiation of, the aspects of the beer, whether, you're talking about the hop character and the malt character, the way the bitterness transitions, or from malt flavor to bitterness or vice versa. I think, when you have a very large, complex beer, a very high alcohol beer, you can have, continuous hopping and tons of hop flavor and bitterness and aroma, because that beer is lingering on the palate more, allowing you to experience all those different aspects. In a smaller beer, a session beer, I think if you try to do that, you end up not being able to differentiate them, and the beer tastes muddier, or just less complex. So I think
I'm disagreeing with you, John.
Okay. I think in the case of Jen Schwarzbier, or some of the session IPAs, it's a matter of timing. It's a matter of levels. I think at least in envisioning your session beers, you want to think about this aspect. Getting some distinction in each of these characters, so that you can fully experience them.
Yeah. See, so here's where I struggle, because I think. You're not trying to make a lesser version of the beer. The point is to make a beer with all that same character and, grace and, drinkability in a lower ABV beer. And here's one of the things about bigger beers. Find some double IPA somewhere. Cut it in half. Like I do this with our 8% double IPA. Cut it in half with water. It becomes more bitter. It becomes hoppier. And it's just because you are cutting the alcohol and the malt down that all those things are exposed. You can actually taste the malt more. You can taste more of the hops. So, making it smaller doesn't necessarily mean you're losing out on that. It's like adding water to whiskey. You do it because it opens up the characters for you to sense. And I think that's one of the great things about session beers. It's not, you don't have to overwhelm the beer with hops to try and get hop flavor.
No, I think that's where I'm going. I'm going for less is more.
Well, I think you get more character out of it. Lesser.
To add to that, I would absolutely agree with that. And so when you select your malts, it's extraordinarily important to obviously chew your malt, taste it, because everything's amplified. So, for instance, there's a malt out there, and it gives a very toasty, intense, toasty, bready flavor. It's only about a 20 Levy-bound malt, but if you overuse it in a session beer, you've completely, it's too much. It becomes too one-dimensional. So you have to be extraordinarily, light-handed and delicate. And you can still get some of the interesting malt flavors of biscuit or toast or what, I use for my caramel malts. If I want a depth of caramel flavor that doesn't overpower, I'll use a really intense malt like Cara Aroma from Vireman. It's 145 Levy-bond, but you have to use it as extremely light percentages to just not overpower anything else going on. So that balance in ingredients and the light-handedness is really, really important.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, right. Especially if you're going to do the infusions like coffee or vanilla or anything. That it goes across the board with your malt, with your hops, or with any added specialty ingredient that you want to layer in there, like with your wit beer. When I was talking to Jason Perkins at Allagash about the wit beer that they make that I put in the book, freshness is key on that coriander and orange peel, and very low amounts. But once again, going back to the quality of the ingredients you're adding, becomes amplified because it's just all right there, to hide behind.
Well, and I think, we might look at this from the reverse, which is, when you take a nice, sessionable, well-balanced beer with great flavor, and you try and drive that up into an imperial version, what ends up happening is you end up just pouring in a lot more of the hops or malt, whatever, in order to try and retain some of that character that starts getting lost as you go bigger and bigger and bigger on the beer. Just about everybody's tried making imperial versions of some smaller beer, and that's what ends up happening. It's more of a struggle to get that character in those big beers to come out and not be muddled and masked.
Well, that's interesting that you pointed that out. I'll use the example of I've seen out in the marketplace just a little bit. I don't think many people ever jumped on this bandwagon, and correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I just don't go to the beer aisle as much because I make beer and I bring a lot of the beer home from the brewery to drink. Like Imperial Pilsner. I mean, the essence of a Pilsner is that beautiful, delicate, wonderful malt layered with, the correct bitterness depending on if you're brewing Bohemian or Czech, and the effervescence of the carbonation and the refreshingness of it. So to put the word imperial there and to double those ingredients and bring up the alcohol and power in the malt, it is not a Pilsner anymore. You shouldn't even use the word. It becomes a whole different animal. Right. So I, as far as a style, like if you want to say style police or geek or whatever, that's hard. That's hard for me when we do a different trend like that, and I'm like, that's not even a Pilsner anymore. It can't retain the characteristics that define, especially these historical styles, by being brought up to a higher level of alcohol. It's just a different beer.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I mean, a lot of imperial styles I've seen attempted haven't been very drinkable for me. Imperial Wit and Imperial Hefeweizen and a few others. It's just like, interesting exercise, but didn't really work.
Because they overdid it. Oh, I'll tell you. John, you've used the Brew Guru app, have you not?
Oh, yes, many times.
Right. I think we were both using it when we were in Minnesota for the Homebrewers Conference.
Oh, yeah?
It's a free app. You can get it at all your popular places. You can get it off the App Store. You can get it off the Google Play Store. You can get it from the small child sitting at the end of your couch. All the places you normally go to get software installed on your phone. And it's free, like I said. And for members, it has an amazing array of stuff in there that is very helpful for you to get the most out of your membership. For one, it'll tell you where all the places are around you to drink. So all the great beer bars and breweries and brew pubs, and then it'll highlight the ones that are giving you a discount. So you can say, hey, what's the closest place around me that's giving an AHA discount? Oh, here you go. And you can go and drink beer there. It's got discounts on brewing supplies, things like that. You can find the homebrew shops that have the discounts for you. And they include some articles, a bunch of different stuff in there that's just very easy to use. I've found it to be very snappy and responsive when I need to look something up. I found it better than Google Maps. When you put in, brew or brewery, and you end up with 10 coffee places along with all the beer places, and then you're all right. So I found that to be great. So go check it out. If you're not an AHA member, make sure to sign up for the AHA. Great organization, does a lot for homebrewers and for beer. And they got great stuff like that, including the Zymurgy magazine, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let's take a short break. When we come back, Jen, I want to put you on the spot and ask you for a great session beer recipe. Hopefully one of your many multiple award-winning beer recipes. All right, We'll be back right after this.
If you work in retail sales, the restaurant industry, or are a new craft beer enthusiast, or you know someone who is, you have got to check out Beer 101. Beer 101 is an online course created for anyone wanting a quick introduction to the vast world of craft beer. Beer 101 covers the history of beer, brewing ingredients and processes, vital stats like ABV, SRM, IBU, and gravity, styles, tasting, glassware, and pairing beer with food. The Beer 101 course is offered by the Brewers Association at craftbeer.com. Also home to the truly awesome Beer Style Finder, a visual guide to every beer style. Quickly play with color, bitterness, and alcohol content to interactively explore the entire world of beer styles with a gorgeously designed interface to your favorite beverage. The new Beer 101 course and new Beer Style Finder are only available at craftbeer.com. Craftbeer.com, celebrating the best of American beer. BN Army, have you heard the latest at Hop Tech? Since Hop Tech has doubled in size after a huge expansion, Jade and Roberto can stock even more of the best quality homebrewing supplies and equipment. Over 60 kick-ass varieties of hops and malts, monster truckloads of quality brewer's yeast, including White Labs, Y-yeast, and multiple dry yeasts. They even have all grain systems from Grainfathers and Ruby Street Brew Systems, thanks to Jade, the brand new all-grain brewer. And don't forget about their 10% discount to all BN Army members. Jade and Roberto are waiting for you and all of your brewing questions over at hoptech.com. Hoptech, totally not sucking since 1983.
Hey, my brewing brothers and sisters. This is Jamel Zanisha, and I want to tell you about Heretic Evil Twin. You might be familiar with my homebrew recipe, which uses massive late hopping to create a balance between the malty sweet and the hoppy bitter, along with an outrageous malt and hop character. I wanted a beer with the same bold hop and malt character, so we played around with the homebrew recipe until we were able to make a great commercial version too. We've created a beer rich in malt character, full of caramel, toast, biscuit, and an ever so subtle roast note. On top of that, we piled in an insane amount of Citra and Columbus hops at the end of the boil, as well as in dry hopping. This damn-the-cost approach to hopping gives Heretic's Evil Twin a great blast of citrus and tropical fruit that can't be matched by any other hop. The result is a bold, malty, hoppy, but easy-drinking beer. This is our top seller, our flagship beer, and I couldn't be prouder of it. Cheers.
To find Heretic beers near you, click on Find Some at hereticbrewing.com.
The 21st Amendment.
Watch out!
Do you like beer? They make beer.
Watch out!
Do you like friends and fun? They make friends and fun.
Watch out!
Do you still like to have a good time? The 21st Amendment.
Watch out!
The 21st Amendment in San Francisco, located at 563 2nd Street, 2 blocks from the building where baseball is seen and played. Try their beers in the pub or try them in the can, featuring
Monk's Blood.
Made with real monk.
Watch out!
So why not have the best time of your life? Go to the 21A and Sean O'Sullivan will personally greet you with a can of
Monk's Blood. The 21st Amendment.
Watch out!
This advertisement is not in any way affiliated nor associated with the 21st Amendment Bar and Pub, nor its subsidiaries or affiliates. This telecast is not copywritten by the 21st Amendment for the private use of the Brewing Network. Any use of this telecast without Jamil Zainashev's consent is prohibited. Suck it, JP.
Are you a member of the White Labs Customer Club? If not, you should be. It's the easiest way to earn free stuff for turning in your old homebrew labels from either Vials or Pure Pitch. All you have to do is save your labels and redeem them for things like free yeast, an exclusive White Labs t-shirt or sweatshirt, and even the opportunity to brew with the yeast man himself, Chris White. Signing up is easy. Just go to whitelabs.com/customer club, fill out the registration form, and then mail in your labels. They will return the favor by sending you awesome White Labs swag. Go sign up today at whitelabs.com/customer club. White Labs, pure yeast and fermentation since 1995.
Back to the two guys that know how to turn beer into beer. This is Brew Strong.
Oh, when you are getting ready to brew your session beer with quality ingredients, which we've determined is extremely important to the session beer style, one of the places you can go, Great Fermentations. They've got the largest catalog of Blickman products. They've got the best trained people on Blickman products, top-notch customer service, same-day shipping on most items. Yeah, check them out at greatfermentations.com. I've been there. I've just tasted their malt. I've sniffed their hops. I've jiggled their yeast. I've been to both locations, and top-notch people, top-notch ingredients. Check them out, greatfermentations.com. You can like them on Facebook, GR8 Fermentation, and you can also find them on Instagram and Twitter as GR8 Fermentation. So check them out, greatfermentations.com. Good people. All right, Jen, before the break, I put you on the spot. I was like, all right, totally unplanned. Can you give us a recipe?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a good one. I love that question. That's awesome. I just happened to be at my computer, so I took the time, and I'm going to give you my Black Forest Schwartz recipe that won those awards for Schwartz beer, because I think it is it's a very complex recipe, and it really exemplifies some of the things that I was talking about building complexity with a very light sleight of hand. And it also, there's a trick in here that I can talk about that I haven't mentioned. So first off, it's German-style Schwartz beer is the style on the malt side, and I'm just going to do it in percentages because that's the easiest way. You can have a boil size of a gallon to 10 gallons, and if you have percentages, you can kind of figure that out. So I like to combine the Pilsner malt with the two-row, so I use about 44% high-quality Pils malt, 24% two-row, about 18% Munich, and 4%, and here's a really interesting one that makes this beer, a Belgian malt called Special B. And it's excellent. It's a very unique flavor and is just very complex, yummy, tasty malt called Special B. 2% chocolate, very light. 3% on the dehusked Carafa 3. Very important to be dehusked on your black malt to not bring a stringent, harsh black malt husk astringency. And then 3% on another one of my favorite complex malts, Weirmann Cara Aroma. So, I've got 4 malts in there that are between 2 and 4%. And the trick I wanted to mention is that Carafa 3. I use that a lot in session beer brewing. For my alt beer, I would mash in, and I would grind, and then I would get all mashed in, right? And now I'm almost ready to sparge. Do this at home. Now I'm grinding just a little bit, 1 to 3% of black malt, and I sprinkle it on the top and sparge over it so it's not dug into my mash bed. And it kind of helps create that blood red color you're sometimes looking for, but without bringing any of that malt flavor into it. Like to try to get color out of the malt, but no flavor, dehusked Carafa 3 is great to do that with. I start this beer at 11.5 Plato, and you guys are going to have to do the conversion to balling, but it's not hard. It ends about 3 Play-Doh. And the hops are pretty classic. 58% of your BUs, your bitterness, should come from your first hop addition, which is Tettnang. Boil classic 90 minutes. And then the second hop would come 30 minutes to end a boil. And that would be a combination of Tettnang and Mount Hood, which is Hallertau or Mittelfrüh. So any really quality Hallertau could work. And that's about 35% of your bitterness. And the knockout hop is only bringing you 6.5% of your bitterness, and it's a Hallertau. And I calculate at least 10% utilization for those bitterness units, because you're at a stand. If you're at a stand over 175 Fahrenheit, you are extracting, you are isomerizing alpha acids. So I do put a utilization rate of about 10%, even on my knockout hop. Mm-hmm. High quality lager yeast, and you got yourself a great Schwartz beer.
Could you run through the malt percentages again? I think I wrote it down wrong.
Okay, so on the Weirmann Pilsner, it's 44%, and the two-row, 24%. Yeah, and check my math on if it adds up to 100, because I didn't back calculate it. So 24%. Well, I guess it's not going to add up to 100. It's then 18% on Munich, and 4% on Special B, 2% on chocolate, 3% on dehusked Carafa 3, and 2% on Cara Aroma.
What shocks me is the use of the Special B.
Yeah, and that's the secret ingredient, because no one would think about putting Special B in their German Schwarzbier.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. It works really well, but it's only 4%.
Right. Like you were saying, you can use a high color crystal sparingly, and you get some of the flavor without going overboard. What's the level bond on the Munich?
That's going to be your Munich Type 1, so it's going to be somewhere between 8 and 10.
Okay.
Well, what was the total IBUs you were shooting for?
Oh, yeah, the total. You know what? That's right. I did 26. That's right. I hadn't mentioned that. Total IBUs that I'm shooting for is 26, and ABV 4%. Cool. And I don't have this in the book. I decided to not put it in the book and put another wonderful Schwartz beer that's made in Utah. One year we had 3 Schwartz beers win gold, silver, bronze, and they all came from Utah. One of them was I think black beer from, was it black beer or Baba? Yeah, Baba black beer from Uinta. And then it was also our Schwartz beer, Black Forest, and then it was Kevin Templin's over at Red Rock. And so I had Kevin's Schwartz beer, which is a fantastic Schwartz beer as well, but that's the recipe in the book. But the one I just gave you was mine.
Well, very nice. I'm glad to have that, because, I mean, you took a couple of nice medals at GABF this year.
Yes, that not in session beer. We won silver for our IPA, Gold Digger, and then we won gold for our Hop Donkey in the Double Red.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great stuff. And I remember having that beer back then, and it was just amazing. It's one of my favorite styles, and I've always meant to talk to you about it at some point. And here it is.
Oh, cool.
11, 12 years later, finally talking about it. Yeah.
That's great. That's great that you remembered it. That only adds up to 97%. So what I did was when I ran through the percentages on commercial break, I kind of left off the 0.3 or the 0.2. Mm-hmm. So there's some, 0.3 or 0.4 or something like that on those, like 4.2 or 2.3. And there's slight little, that obviously add up to that extra 3%. But I just rounded them to the nearest number.
Sure.
What was the other thing I was going to ask you? I was going to say the reason that I remembered that Schwartz beer is also I think it won that year, maybe the year before, and people were surprised that because there were people entering in that category at a much higher ABV, yet yours was the winner, even though it was only a 4%er.
Correct.
So I think that goes to show your talent and skill for making beers like that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's one of my favorites, and I challenge you to replicate it.
All right.
And then I don't know. I really don't think I don't think there's going to be any acidification in the foundation of that water. I think you've got enough dark malts there that it should probably take care of itself.
Any tips for people on fermentation on this beer?
Cold, 50F. I used 2124 lager yeast from Y Yeast, and I always fermented in the low 50s. Now, if you have experience using a nice lager yeast and you like to start it at 52 and then come in 24 hours later and somehow maybe chill your refrigerator or wherever you're fermenting down, just so you know it gets a vigorous start, that's a fine technique. At the end of fermentation, I don't know how much control homebrewers these days have over this, so I'm just going to tell you ideal, and then if it can happen, that's great. It seems like there's a lot of tools out there for the homebrewer. At the very end of fermentation, so within about anywhere between 5 and 6 Plato, you try to catch it, and you want to let it free rise up into the low 60s, and that's how you scrub for diacetyl in a lager beer. It's a really nice way to do it. So you ferment it initially very cold. At the very end, you can go ahead and let it free rise up into the lower 60s, and then fermentation complete, give it a nice 24-hour diacetyl rest, and then cool it down, and then age it at least 30 days cold at 30. It's a 30 to 40 day beer. So then if you can just let it sit off the yeast, rack it into something else before carbonation, and let it, just mature at 33, 34, 35 for, 25, 30 days after fermentation. That's great. I mean, even 45 days would just be beautiful on this beer. I always try to do at least 40 days on my JBF entries.
Interesting.
It's lager beer.
Yeah. Now, where can people pick up the Session Beers book?
The Brewers publication of the Brewers Association, so you can get through the Brewers publication site, the bookstore, on the BA site, and then Amazon has it, or probably some local bookstores, but probably Amazon's your best bet, or the Brewers Association.
Or ask your local homebrew shop as well.
That'd be great.
They can get it for you, and I'm sure Great Fermentations probably got them. They had a good collection of books there, and they can get it out to you quick, and then you're not supporting Amazon as much.
Sure, yeah. That is great. That's good.
Not that Amazon's horrible. It's just they can't get my packages to me. That's the problem. Keep saying, we couldn't deliver it. Nobody was there. There's 20 people in the building. Come on. Drop off the package. What's the matter with you people? Well, that's a whole nother show. All right. Thank you so much, Jen, for joining us. Excellent information.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Maybe we can have you back another time. Just
anytime.
All right. Thanks. Take care. All right, let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll wrap up right after this.
Brewing great beer is a process of continuous learning, and the best books on every aspect of brewing can be found at Brewers Publications, with more than 50 awesome titles like Modern Homebrew Recipes by Gordon Strong, Designing Great Beers, the Ultimate Guide to Brewing Classic Beer Styles by Ray Daniels, American Sour Beers, Innovative Techniques for Mixed Fermentations by Michael Tonsmeyer, For the Love of Hops, The Practical Guide to Aroma, Bitterness, and the Culture of Hops by Stan Hieronymus, and Radical Brewing, Recipes, Tales, and World-Altering Meditations in a Glass by Randy Mosher, plus many, many more. These are the books and the authors with the knowledge to push your brewing farther than you thought possible. And you'll find them all at fine homebrew and book retailers everywhere. And visit the website at brewerspublications.com. Brewers Publications, all the best on beer and brewing. Your support of the Brewing Network means everything to us. We couldn't produce shows without you. And we love giving you something extra for that support, like Brew Your Own magazine. You already know it's a great brewing magazine full of recipes, equipment how-tos, discussions of beer styles, and brewing techniques. Whether you're new to brewing and just starting out or you're an old pro, you'll always learn something from the articles in Brew Your Own. Plus, there are amazing special issues like plans for building a Brutus 10 system, 250 classic clone recipes, and the Homebrewer's Answer Book. Brew Your Own magazine and BYO.com are awesome resources for any any brewer, whether for yourself or as a gift. When you subscribe or resubscribe from the Brewing Network homepage, you directly support programs like this. Get a great magazine and support the Brewing Network. Subscribe to Brew Your Own right from thebrewingnetwork.com. Grog tags aren't just for labeling your home brews to hand out to your friends. They're the perfect way to round out your personal brewing marketing. Bringing your latest beer to a funeral? Craft a metal sign to go with it. Heading out to little Liam's bar mitzvah? Grog Tag custom bottle caps are awesome. Couldn't get out of jury duty this year? Grog Tag the hell out of the deliberation room with reusable labels. Grog Tag has an awesome array of products just waiting to be customized by you. Metal signs, coasters, tasting mats, bottle caps, tap handles. It's all there waiting for your designs at Grog Tag. Liven up your next party with the widest selection of custom products ever offered by a sponsor of the Brewing Network. Grog Tag. At least your beer will look good.
Learning to brew has never been so disgusting. This is Brew Strong.
All right, we're back. That's a bunch of great information from Jen on session beers, don't you think, John?
Oh, yeah. That was a great show.
Yeah.
Her session beers book is a really good read, too. I have it. And she makes, in that book, she makes the point a couple times of, balance and a delicate balance being key in session beers, and to listen to your beer. In other words, pay attention to the details as you're brewing and so on, because that's in pursuit of that delicate balance. That's how you're going to get there.
Right. Yeah, I think the interest in session beers is high, but there's just so many that lack any sort of balance whatsoever and are difficult to drink. It reminds me of New England IPA. The interest is very high, and there's some great ones out there, but a lot of them are being made very poorly. And I guess maybe that's just the way that brewing is, because people blame it on New England IPA as a style, but I'm like, well, it's not that. It's that people just don't. It's a difficult thing to achieve, and people don't know how to do it, and so they're making crappy versions and just foist them off on people. And same thing with session beers. And I think it just takes a matter of time. It takes getting some good books out there, like the session beer, some good information, and then people start dialing it in, and they start realizing what a good example is, and versus just an example. I think that's quite a difference.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, and I don't know if you're in the need for some stuff to spice up your life, John.
No, I'm pretty satiated.
Satiated. You've got a full load in right now, and no need for any more excitement.
No, I gotta keep my blood pressure a little lower and take it easy.
Well, for those of you not taking it easy, for those of you who could use a little bit more excitement in your life, check out adamandeve.com today. If you use the offer code JAMIL, JAMIL, and you're going to get 50% off just about any one item that they sell. And then when you do, you're going to get 3 free adult DVDs. You're going to free extra sensual gift, and you're going to get free shipping. All you got to use is the offer code JAMIL, JAMIL, at adamandeve.com. One item in the cart, there's your 50% off, and then you get a bunch of free stuff and free shipping. So if you've never shopped there before, give it a try. I mean, it's a cheap way to get a bunch of dildos or whatever you guys are buying. I don't know. They keep advertising, so you must be buying a few. Probably more than your fair share. All right, but buy some more. Get a bigger one. Get a smaller one. I don't know.
There's multiple
different colors
uses, too. I mean, you can use them as mash paddles if you want, depending on the size.
Rolling pin.
Yeah.
Baseball bat.
There you go.
Use it to beat your neighbors silly. Well, they got a lot of good stuff, not just dildos. They got a wide array of things that can be used for many, many different things. You know, like Bevo, she's using the sex swing for her child. You know, see, hanging on the what? You hung it on the doorway? Was that where you hung it? Yeah, in the doorway.
Yeah. You can't get the one that mounts to the door. That doesn't really work. You gotta get the free swinging one.
Right. Yeah, and that one you can hang off the tree in your front yard. You know,
no judgment.
The neighbors can use it.
The neighbors would love you.
Yeah, I mean that's really the way it goes. All right, another fine show. Thank you to Jen Talley, our guest. If you're in the market for some good learning, get a hold of that Session Beers book by Jen Talley, published by the Brewers Publications. Also check out our other fine sponsors, especially Blickman Engineering, blickmanengineering.com. Send John an email at feedback@blickmanengineering.com. He appreciates hearing from me. He really does. He likes it. He likes to know that his money is not going down some hole, that we're actually doing the shows, and that you guys are actually listening. Check out the Brewing Network store, thebrewingnetwork.com/store. There's all sorts of goodies in there. They got a big special on rice cookers this week. You know, nice Japanese rice cookers. They are 50% off. Just amazing quality rice cooker.
Just in time for the holidays.
And repurposed BF Goodrich tire swings.
And BF Goodrich tire swings as well.
He's being funny, but everything in the Brewing Network store, almost everything is 30 to 50% off right now. So
there you go.
Go buy stuff.
Well, all right. Until then, everybody, brew strong.
Brew strong, everyone.